Paul Cronje, who's the Portfolio Manager for Citrus Research in the CRI, which is a citrus research and extension organisation for the citrus industry in South Africa. And Paul, I'd like to talk to you about plant growth regulators, and particularly uniconazole, or we also know it as Sunny. Could you please tell us, how do growers use it, why do they use it, and the timings that they use it at?
Uniconazole is a new plant growth regulator, or impacts on the gibberellic acid in the plant, so it reduces the effect of gibberellic acid in the plant. So it's a new product in citrus. It's been registered as Sunny in avocados, but in citrus, the first registration for us was a spring application to reduce shoot length. So you apply it just as the buds start extending in spring, and it will reduce the shoot length.
And how do you apply it?
So you apply it as a soil drench. We see that's more effective as a foliar application. We don't know exactly why, but we see it's a more efficient way of getting the molecule up to where it needs to work at the shoot tip level and reducing that extension.
And by reducing that extension, how does it affect, and what are the side effects to the tree?
So the big positive is that you reduce the sinkability of the shoots, and you can allocate the resources to the fruit, so you get a higher fruit set. So you don't get a vegetative response. The tree just go long shoots, but you rather send it to the little fruitlets, and you get a better fruit set. So that's the first one. And then of course it reduces the shoot length. So then you will have less work cutting out shoots if you want to do pruning. Maybe your light management is also improved by that.
And there's another timing about uniconazole.
Yes, that's a novel timing, and that came about from work on alternative bearing. And we know if you have a lot of fruit on the tree, you inhibit flower formation in the autumn. So if you reduce the amount of gibberellic acid at that stage in a shoot, you get better flower initiation, and you have more flowers after a high crop in the next season. So the uniconazole will counteract the effect of the gibberellic acid if you apply it in the autumn. So in South Africa, the recommendation is to apply it in May on a tree, also as a soil drench, and that knocks down your gibberellic acid, and the buds have the ability to create flowers for the next season.
And for Australian growers, you may have heard of the use of Ralex, which Ralex is a gibberellic acid applied at the same time, which is flower induction, and that reduces flowering. But this is an anti-gibberellin, so it's actually trying to take away the gibberellins from the tree, so it does the opposite effect by increasing flowering and increasing crop load.
Yes, we also use sometimes gibberellic acid to reduce the amount of flowers. And we have young trees and we want to push the trees to grow. As vegetatively, we will spray gibberellic acid now, so just to make sure that we have less fruitlets on the tree so that the tree can grow. But once you go into a production system where you're looking for fruit, then you of course have to counteract the effect of the gibberellic acid.
And I've also heard of another product called paclobutrazole. It's sometimes used in avocados to deliver the same kind of effect. Why isn't that used in citrus?
Paclobutrazole is a very effective anti-gib agent, but the problem is it builds up in the soil and the plant system. So then it can reduce your growth response of the tree too much. So with uniconazole you have a reduced effect, and then the tree will sort of get out of the reduced effect. But paclobutrazole, it builds up, and then you can get a shutdown of the tree, and you don't get vegetative growth in a season, and you always need vegetative growth.
Okay, the next plant growth regulator I'd like to talk about is chemical thinning agents. We spoke to some growers that are using Corasil and Maxim, which we known as tops in Australia. Can you talk about, just in general terms, what kind of practice and what kind of methodology do they use to initiate a spray of such product?
Yes, that's I mean, those two auxins is key for us in realizing nice export quality fruit in terms of size. So we need to apply that in the early summer period. So your first one that you can apply is Corasil. So that's on a smaller diameter, so you work on a fruit size diameter. normally 10 mils thereabout. It differs between cultivars, navels to mandarins. So you can apply that, and then probably 3-4 weeks later, as the fruit doubles up in size, you can apply Maxim. It will also thin the fruit. So the products both work, but how you apply it and when you apply it is the big thing. So you really need to go to your orchard, get data trees, pick a lot of fruit from trees. You have set too many fruit, you will have to spray a little bit at a lower diameter. So then, because then that is going to throw off more fruit. It will always throw will upsize the smallest fruit. So that's how you go about. But it's something that takes patience, and the growers must have the discipline to do it and do it well. Otherwise, you can over-thin or under-thin, and then you just waste money.
And for growers that are doing this, how important is it for them to get experience over the years? How valuable is that data for them?
It's very important, because as seasons change, you will have a very warm spring or a cold spring. So you need to understand what's the impact of your growing conditions this season on the fruit growth. If you're lagging behind or you're in front. Also between cultivars, I mean, if you thin a navel and an Adorcot or a Valencia, they respond differently. So you need to understand what's happening on your farm in terms of your blocks and your cultivars, and what happened last year. If you had a on year, a lot of fruit, then you thin less. If you want some vegetative grow, you thin more. So that's very important, to not only look at what's happening now in the tree, but what happened last year, and what is your aim with your thinning sprays.
So it's adaptive management. It's observing what's happening currently, what's happened before, then making a bit of a prediction of what might occur ahead to help determine whether or not you use these chemicals. And for example, let's say with the uniconazole, would this be a product that would be used every year by a grower on all varieties, or what's the methodology there?
I think with uniconazole, as I said, it's a new product, so we now only sort of starting to learn how it's applied with different cultivars, different production regions, and it's a plant growth regulator, so it means you have a narrow window of applying it for effective effect. So if you apply it too early or too late, you don't get it. So you really need to know what you want to do. There must be a purpose behind it before you do it. So maybe it will not on a farm with different cultivars. You will maybe use it on 2 or 3 cultivars, not on the rest. But it will be something, you will have to have something in mind while you're applying it. It's not going to be like a general something that you apply like a irium spray to get good flowering on all of your crop. You will have to have a specific aim, and then you have to focus on it and make sure that you apply it in the right time of the tree.
And there has to be a problem to fix. So in other words, if a grower's, without using, let's say, uniconazole, has a consistent crop load, has a production system that bears enough fruit, well, there's no need to use it. Yeah. Or either this grower, let's just say if they're generally good in most years, but suddenly they have a high crop load or a very low crop load, and they know that something's troubling, that's when they might say, well, maybe this year I might use it. Would that be a fair statement?
Yes, I agree 100%. If you go into, maybe you had just the season was just a perfect season in terms of fruit set, so you just had so much fruit. Now and their size, everything goes well, but you know it's maybe 80, 90 tons, so that you're going to go into an alternative bearing cycle. So then you know you have to apply it in May, just to make sure your drop in alternative bearing is not so big. So I think it's very important to always have like a plan. It's not a general product that you just apply.
Thank you very much, Paul Cronje, CRI. All the best.